Hello, welcome back to the WGL APAC week number 3 of season 1. My name is Jordan Mays, and joining me as always is Alex Blakey.
Great to be here, of course, Jordan. We've got some more top-tier tanking action coming in for today's broadcast, and we've got a pretty intense match looking for our first matchup today as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, across the board today, we've got some really good-looking matches that should, in theory, be pretty close. But not only are they going to be close matches, they're also really important, I guess, in terms of how these teams are going to gain points throughout the season, because some of them are very closely matched on the standings, and having a win over a team which is so close to you on the standings is always just going to be that little extra bumper that you might need to get up a couple of places.
Yeah, definitely. So we've got, the standings. They're looking very close around the kind of centre of all of these teams here as well. Yep. So, the kind of top tier is very, very close. So really anything could happen, particularly by the end of today. We'll see, whether we get some more teams kind of heading up towards the top of the pack and extending their lead up around the 2 to 4th spots, or whether we, again, see some more kind of mid-tier battles and everything even out once again.
Yeah, look, it was a really exciting day yesterday as well. This is obviously our second broadcast day of this week, so let's go ahead and have a look and see what happened yesterday. It was a very quick one, wasn't it, Alex?
A very quick one yesterday. 5-2 and then 3 5-0s there between EL Gaming Run, Meltdown Dark Horse, and Karen Tiger and Epic Gear Profit. That was nothing that we could have predicted there. I think, maybe, we picked the EL Gaming and Run match to be a 5-0, but then to have two of the top Korean teams in our league battle it out and end up at a 5-0, completely unexpected. We thought that one was going to be a 5-4. So, yep. Some really, really intense matches there, and the teams obviously stepping it up in terms of practice, and I think that was reflected in yesterday's results.
Yeah, I mean, it was a very different day to, I guess, what we expected to happen, and really for me, I think Meltdown was the standout sort of performance, yep. which we didn't really expect to happen. 5-0ing Dark Wolves there, which was just absolutely crazy, and I mean, they've got another game coming up today, if I'm not mistaken, so they'll be putting themselves in good stead here to have a pretty big week 3.
Yeah, it should be, I think. Looking at our first matchup today, of course, we've got a clash between the Horsemen, and we haven't seen the Horsemen too much on the stream so far, but obviously they're looking up kind of towards the top of the standings as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of the standings, we do have them available for us today, Alex. We'll have a look and see who's sitting up the top, and, well, it's not going to be a surprise to anyone that it is EL Gaming, but really the crucial part of these standings, I suppose, is sort of that 2 to 5 or 2 to maybe 6 region where all these teams can almost beat each other.
Yeah, exactly. So down the bottom there, I mean, obviously we've got Twist and Goldbass, who really are just need to pick up a win pretty soon. Goldbass, they might be able to do it today, potentially. We'll wait and see. But obviously Twist we saw play yesterday as well, and didn't go so well for them. But, up at the top of the table, that's where we're going to be focusing on the first few matches today. So it should be good to kind of get into it and really see whether the Horsemen can pop up to around spot number 2 after the end of this week.
Yeah, well, actually, both of those teams that are playing first up could potentially hit themselves up into that second spot. So the winner of that, maybe if they get like a tiebreaker win, they might not be able to jump up to the second spot, but well, we'll have to find out and see. Of course, we have got not just that one game coming up today, we've got lots of games, and we'll have a look and see what's coming up here, Alex.
Yeah, there we go. So we've got Horsemen and TCC up first, obviously, should be a good one, but I'm really interested to see our second match today, because it's the kind of bottom of the table clash. It's the two of the Korean teams who really haven't been performing too well so far, duking it out. Goldbass and Team Epic Gear Profit, and last season these guys, they were really some of the top teams in their region in Korea, but this season they've come into the APAC region, come into the kind of mixed pool of teams, if you will, and really it's been a struggle for all bar Meltdown to adapt to the kind of APAC metagame, if you will, the preferred style of play here, which really does seem to be shifting towards, faster tanking, taking the initiative in some of these maps rather than just waiting for the enemy to come to you. It seems to be that currently that is what's getting rewarded in these games, and that's why we're seeing those two guys down near the bottom of the ladder. But it should be interesting to see how they clash and whether they try and use any of the new kind of tactics they might have kind of figured out in the first couple of weeks of this season.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a really interesting day, but it looks like we're just about ready to get underway. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first team and our first matchup for today. Of course, we did mention it already. It's Horsemen and the Coalition Zoo. First team here, Horsemen, sitting in number 4 on the ladder, but if they win this one, well, if they win it and get the 3 points, they'll be quite easily into the second slot.
Yeah, look, I love watching Horsemen play. They're just the perfect mix of aggression when they need to, and you know, they can play a good defensive game as well. So that's why we're seeing them sitting right up on spot number 4 of the ladder. Falusa, obviously their captain. Like he's a bit of a crazy guy. He's a crazy tanker, that's for sure. But you know, definitely one of my favourite teams to watch. And I think we've seen Gaming play. Gaming, they're the sort of team that will be all aggressive, all out every time. The Horsemen, they're aggressive when they need to be, right? And that's why I like watching them.
Yeah, Horsemen are a very exciting team, but of course they're going to be going up against the Coalition Zoo,
Yes.
who are, well, sitting up in number 2 at the moment, but this is going to be a tough matchup for them because Horsemen and Coalition Zoo, I feel, are pretty evenly matched.
I think so, honestly. It should be interesting because the Coalition Zoo, again, they're one of our teams who has kind of started to adapt and started to, you know, try out some new tanks, some new strategies this season as well. And obviously it's working quite well for them because they are in spot number 2 so far. And, you know, early on in the season, I think it was week 1, we were a little bit unsure what to think of the Coalition, but really they've showed up well so far. And, you know, bringing things like E100s into the mix. They love their E100s. Some crazier tanks as well, like the Mouse and the Oho that they played against Twist on Ruinberg, which was crazy to watch. So I'm really hoping that against Horsemen today we'll see some of those same, you know, wild out there tank picks.
Yeah, I mean, the Coalition Zoo are certainly not a team that are going to stray away from something a little bit different, I suppose, to some of the teams that we tend to see playing relatively standard sort of tactics.
Yep.
So Coalition Zoo, always a fun team to watch. Horsemen, always a fun team to watch because they're so aggressive as well.
It's
so
a good matchup.
This matchup should definitely be an exciting one to see.
It should be. Honestly, this is probably the matchup that I was kind of looking forward to the most this weekend.
Yeah,
I mean, we've got some, you know, good ones again coming up later today, but really this is a great one to start us off.
It certainly is, but let's go ahead and sort of get underway with things here, Alex, because it looks like we've got our first map just about ready. Here's our tank lineups.
There we go.
Well,
there we
Coalition
go. I
Zoo,
love
isn't
it. I love it. Coalition Zoo picking those 3 E100s here on Himmelsdorf, the big German tier 10 heavy tank. And they're actually going with 2 T10s, the Soviet tier 9 heavy tank, instead of going with a tier 10 and a separate tier 8. So they're probably going to be on the defense here first up. No surprises. And they've got the AMX 50B in there as well for a bit of extra firepower. Really solid brawling lineup. In the meantime, Horsemen go with something a little bit more standard, but no less deadly. Lots of FV215Bs, those tanks spew damage. AMX 50Bs, excellent at brawling. And the IS-7, which is like, I mean, it is the sort of king of Himmelsdorf. If you just have one of them, you know, it's like your flagship tank.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's going to be pretty good because they've both got good tank lineups. So I think we're in for a very close game. I think my pick, just looking down at my pick here, I've said that it's going to be a 5-3 to the Horsemen, but that is, like, I would not be surprised at all to see Coalition Zoo take this one out, like, pretty handily. Yeah,
well, I mean, if you're interested in my opinion, Alex, I've gone 5-4 to the Coalition Zoo,
5-4.
so I've thought maybe it might be a little bit closer than what you've predicted here, but certainly here on Himmelsdorf, I guess if we touch on that a little bit more, it's a good map for both of these lineups. They both have excellent win rates on it. Neither team have lost so far on the attacking side, so for me, this one's going to be a 1-1 with both teams picking up their attacking side.
I think a 1-1 is a safe bet there, Jordan. 1-1, probably I'm going to go with that as well. So because both of these teams, again, pretty evenly matched. They're both good at Himmelsdorf. Attack and the defense should kind of even things out between them.
Yeah, and actually 2 of the best teams in the league on Himmelsdorf as well, so we should see some pretty sublime play coming out here, and really looking forward to getting into this one. It looks like the Coalition Zoo going to be starting off on the attacking side, so that's going to be good for them. They favour that attacking side on Himmelsdorf, so always nice to get off to a good start.
Yeah, they do like that attacking side. So let's go ahead and take a look at where they will be heading out to. So we've got the guys down the bottom on the Coalition Zoo. Looks like we might be seeing a bit of an early banana push right here. We've got JWill97 and I think that's Pixel heading up. Yep, Pixel and Craziv as well heading up there. So we could even just be seeing a stock standard, a good old-fashioned banana push down that 8 line. I think they've got the tanks for it. They're fully brawl set up. But the Horsemen, just looking at where they're set up, they might be able to get some good shots on towards the Coalition Zoo while they're crossing. They're getting the spots.
Yeah, they're getting heaps of spots here. This is a great setup from the Horsemen. Look at all that damage the Coalition Zoo are taking on the cross. But, I mean, as I say that, the Horsemen somehow taking some damage themselves. And really, when you look at it there, Coalition Zoo actually won that trade when really they shouldn't have.
That is why I love these E100s on Hillsdorf. When they're crossing the line, you know, typically you're going to be able to get one or two extra shots off as the defenders. But the Coalition Zoo, they don't worry about that because the E100s have about 750 damage per shell in them. So they can trade so effectively on those crosses.
Yeah, and Coalition Zoo have done what they've set out to do. They've managed to get that cross relatively safely, now making their way in towards that 2-cap. Spencer here in the 1390 isn't going to be bothering them too much. He's getting a little bit of information there for Horsemen. He's going to find out that there's no one from Coalition Zoo on the hill, but I would say Horsemen would have suspected that anyway, and you know, this is exactly what we always see coming out from the Coalition Zoo. They always go onto that 2-cap with those E100s and just win the brawl from there, and it's now going to come down to Horsemen and how they try and retake this capture point.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. This is not a surprise from the Coalition Zoo by any stretch of the imagination. They've done this before. It's worked before. And honestly, taking a look at the Horsemen's positions, it might be working again because we've got Faluso not really able to help out. We've got one member of the Horsemen kind of all the way back climbing the hill, so it's going to take him quite a while to kind of get towards that 2-cap. So really, Horsemen can't engage before that time.
I mean, you can see Joke at the moment just had his gun angled in the direction of Spencer in that AMX 1390. So if that 1390 pokes out just a little bit too far, maybe a little bit too long, he's going to be punished for it. But at the moment, the Horsemen actually doing a pretty reasonable job of chipping away at the Coalition Zoo. Having said that, though, Nundesu has been completely caught out in the courtyard there, and that's a great start for the Coalition Zoo. 2 kills already in their favor as the AMX 50B goes down as well.
Oh, absolutely mad. I'm loving these E100s in action by the Coalition Zoo. The T10s doing lots of work as well. But the Horsemen, they've not only got to worry about getting their tanks destroyed down there near the courtyard, but it's looking like the base cap's going pretty well for them.
Archon's going to have to come up huge here, but he's already missed one shot in that AMX 50B. The E100's definitely not being punished for walking around in that angle with their backs, I guess, exposed to the AMX 50B there, and really there's no way that I can see for Horsemen here to really come back into this one. Coalition Zoo have just got fantastic positioning. They've completely outplayed the Horsemen, at least for the moment, and well, they've got tanks in the game, they've got the HP advantage and the positioning advantage. So what are you going to do as the Horsemen here?
This is so tricky for the Horsemen, and they're just completely encircled. Like you said, that positioning is so important, but Archon actually has just reloaded on that AMX 50B. Oh, misses a shot though.
Yeah, he certainly did. J-Will in that T10 still hanging around for the moment for the Coalition Zoo. One of the E100s, Madhouse there, just trying to get a shot across, but both the E100s on the reload now. They're going to have to wait a little bit here for the Coalition Zoo to get some damage across, but Gorilla should be going down momentarily. And there you go, Joke able to pick that one up with relative ease. And I mean, for a moment there, it looked like the Horsemen might be able to come back into that one, but it was always going to be that strength in numbers there from the Coalition Zoo. And once those reloads came off for the E100s, it was all over.
Yeah, like that's why these guys picked the E100s. And look, we've still got Joke and Madhouse still on 2.3 effectively 1,000 HP each, right? And that is so hard to be able to chip through that with those auto-loaders. That's why I really like, the other reason why I really like seeing these E100s, it's like an AMX 50B will have to go through another whole clip reload to take out an E100 compared to something like a, well, I suppose another AMX 50B even. But the way that the Coalition Zoo kind of used them to get in towards that cap to start bullying the Horsemen early on, and just winning every trade that they went into. The Horsemen, their only chance was to go right in on the Coalition Zoo when they were all grouped up, when all of the Horsemen were grouped up, but it just wasn't wasn't happening. The Horsemen, they sent that man up towards that 0 line, up towards the hill. They picked a fight where they were outmanned, outgunned, and against E100s, you're not going to win that.
Yeah, so a pretty good result there coming out for the Coalition Zoo. Already 1-0 up here after the first half of Himmelsdorf. And to be honest, though, I'm not particularly worried there for the Horsemen, despite that being so convincing for the Coalition Zoo.
No, definitely not. Look, the Horsemen, they still played that one, pretty well. They got some good rotates on. Yeah. I did like the idea that they tried to, send the AMX 50B up the hill and try and get a bit of a flank going on with that one. So definitely some good strats from the Horsemen. But honestly, like, there's good strats, and then there's TCZ's way that they play Himmelsdorf attack. It's like, we can see it. We know the strategy, and it's just so hard to counter, because at the end of the day, the Horsemen, they still did the right things, right? They got the shots, or they were positioned to get the shots on towards the Coalition Zoo when they crossed the banana line.
Yep.
Right? So in that respect, they couldn't really have done anything different with the tanks that they had. I honestly think that when you're going up against the Coalition Zoo on Himmelsdorf, on the attack, you've got to counter. You've actually got to counterpick the E100s that you know they're going to pick. Right? So even with a T110 E4, you just need that alpha damage instead of maybe an autoloader, instead of an FV215B.
Yeah.
Right? You need that alpha damage to go equal or better with those E100s in the trades. Right? If you can do that, then I think there's going to be a better chance for the Horsemen to kind of come back from that. But, of course, swapping around now.
I mean, it's only week 3 as well, so the Coalition Zoo, they've been using this strategy a few times, but eventually some of these teams are going to be starting to figure out how they want to counter-strat those E100s. So Coalition Zoo, the strategy is working at the moment, but for how long is that going to last here on Himmelsdorf before they have to start adapting to perhaps some other sort of a strategy?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? And I think we're going to be seeing these teams adapt fairly soon, Jordan, because, at the end of the day, they'll have to. The Coalitions are sitting right up the top of the standings. And, they played that one extremely well. I like seeing some of the shots that they got, great angling of the tanks. And I also like the T10s that the Coalitions do pick there as well. Obviously, that Soviet Tier 9 heavy tank with a very nice gun, essentially able to go through anything on the Horsemen's lineup with those premium rounds, of course, with relative ease. So overall, I think it's just a tough lineup to beat on the attack on Himmelsdorf.
Yeah, well, lucky for Horsemen, they're going to be moving over to their attacking side, so they probably have a bit of a better chance on this one. But
I think so.
Yeah, we'll have a look and see how those E100s went here on Himmelsdorf, because they were just so strong, weren't they?
Yeah, look at this. So right now we can see that this was where the Coalition Zoo, they were all kind of grouped up, and I think they've got some excellent focus fire there onto DHXD in the FV215B, and Gorilla as well didn't have too much of a chance. I like what Horsemen were doing here by kind of trying to move away from the line of fire of the E100s, but Madhouse, he just came right back and boom, put a shell into Gorilla, I think.
No, he missed that one.
He missed that one.
Joke on the reload here comes in and takes out Gorilla, so wasn't really much of a problem there. I'd be interested to see how these E100s really contributed to the damage, because I think they'll be pretty up there for the Coalition Zoo.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely, I feel. Even though that, like we saw just then, they weren't in the fight 100% of the time.
Yeah.
I think they will be right up the top, along with those, the AMX 50B, of course. So.
All right, well, let's find out here. The T10.
Oh, the
wow!
T10!
What a performance from Jay Will.
I'm loving that, and that's what happens when you ignore the T10. It's got a big Tier 10 gun on it. Like I said, lots of penetration, fairly respectable damage per minute. So, 3.3k damage, that's what's going to happen. And the 113 as well, dealing a lot. But surprisingly enough, those E100s, I suppose, because they weren't in the fight for that long, and they seemingly didn't get quite as many penetrations, or at least hits, as would have been nice. They sitting down there at 9 and 10. But of course, that's not the only reason they're picked just for their damage. Of course, they're picked for their excellent HP pool. They're picked for their nice kind of armor, generally speaking. Obviously, shooting at an E100, you're going to want to shoot at its lower glasses. But if you can't shoot at that, then it can be a bit of a struggle to go through it.
Yeah, so Coalition Zoo continuing their 100% win rate on the attacking side. Now, though, Horsemen going to be moving over to their own attacking side, which they also have a 100% win rate on. So this is going to be now the challenge here for the Coalition Zoo.
Okay, so the Horsemen going with a fairly similar lineup to what we saw last game. A nice kind of fast, brawly lineup, a relatively fast, brawly lineup with the heavies. Those two 113s and the AMX 50Bs, fairly mobile for heavy tanks, but the Coalition, they're actually going to be going with that T110E3.
Yeah.
The IS-7,
Now,
which is...
how do you feel about the T110E3? I mean, we've seen it a few times on Himmelsdorf, and none of those times, to me, it has been particularly effective.
No. Look, I think... I mean... Maybe, look, the Coalition, they like playing these super heavy tanks, like the T110E3, like the E100s, like the Mouse even. But honestly, I'm still not convinced. Even though it is TCC playing it, I feel like they've got a little bit of kind of convincing to do. And it is on the defense, so potentially, you know, the way that it would work is that they put that E3 into one of those pillboxes around the 1 flag or even around the 2 flag, and just send it down the line to look down and only expose its front. Yep, if you do that, Bob's your uncle. You know, you're fine. It does its job. But the question is, will Horsemen play into that or not?
Well, we'll have to find out, because we are going to be heading into our second round here, and it is the second half of Himmelsdorf. This time Horsemen on the attack, and well, we both predicted a 1-1 here, so fingers crossed, I guess, for us, that Horsemen are able to pick up the victory here, but certainly it could go either way. The Coalition Zoo are a very, very accomplished team on Himmelsdorf. They've got a 67% win rate on their defensive side as well, so definitely nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, no, they know what they're doing, the Coalition, and they've actually spotted out Crazips. Horsemen have spotted out Crazip going out there, and Horsemen going for, again, something fairly similar to what we saw TCZ do, going for an early 2-flag push right down the banana. This time, though, the Coalition were not ready on the cross, so they didn't get any shots towards them, and that could harm them a little bit, I feel.
Yeah, it certainly could. I mean, Horsemen have gotten into a pretty good position here without taking any damage. Now they've got a lot of, not necessarily room to maneuver, but they can maneuver safely throughout these buildings and get onto that 2-cap whenever they want without taking any damage. So, good stuff coming out from the Horsemen initially here. And once again, it's going to come down to the Coalition Zoo now having to try and retake this 2-cap.
Looking like Coalition are not going to be making any moves yet. So they did spot out, they definitely spotted out at least Spencer when he was moving down there. I'm not too sure if they spotted out any of those heavies from the Horsemen yet, but it's looking like now that we have got the cap started, a bit of pressure exerted on towards Coalition Zoo so far, but the Horsemen then actually playing it very defensively here, not committing to an all-out brawl, so they're just actually trying for trades, which I think might be not the best idea here, because it looks like they're trying for like trading positions against E100s.
I don't actually mind this position that Fuluso's got himself in either, because he's very far at the bottom of the banana area, but you can see it's actually working out very well. He's caught Pixel off guard, and Pixel's going to go down here. He doesn't have...
Oh,
what? Okay.
8 HP.
Did he have a fire extinguisher? He must have.
8 HP.
I didn't think he did, but...
No, he didn't have a fire extinguisher, that's for sure. I think he's just used his repair kit.
Okay.
And his crew finally managed to put it out. But,
wow.
Wow.
Anyway, that's a good start there. Fuluso in a very good position at the bottom of the banana there, denying the rotation there from the Coalition Zoo, and already getting Horsemen off to a good start in terms of the HP. But you can see now the Coalition Zoo have forced the 1390 off the cap here, and Horsemen once again are going to have to make a play in here and try and force the issue.
Yeah, they will. So right now, Coalition Zoo, they are in the driver's seat here in this cap. They're kind of set up very nicely to defend it. Gorilla, he can't peek there in that FV215B because
he's
as
in
soon
a
as
really
he
bad
peeks,
slot right
you
now.
know, all 3 of those tanks can deal about 750 damage to him, just like that. So, like, that's one shot effectively, and that's a danger when you're up against something like the E3 or the E100s, is that you've got such a low margin for error, and any errors that you make are punished twofold.
I actually really like the way that Madhouse is using this T110E3 here.
Yep.
Or more so the Coalition Zoo, not necessarily just Madhouse, because typically what we've seen from the T110E3, and I think what we were being critical of a lot of the time on Himmelsdorf when we saw the T110E3 was it would just be sitting up here on the 2-cap on its own, and it'd be getting flanked from all sides, and in that sort of situation, the T110E3 not going to have much of an impact. But this time you can see there's a couple of E100s sitting behind the T110E3, and that's going to make it so much more difficult for that T110E3 to be caught off guard. I really like this coming out from the Coalition Zoo. They are starting to get a bit of an advantage back here, though they do lose the first tank. It is Pixel who is really low, and he's their tier 8, so it's not the biggest of deals, but still not a great start in that respect from the Coalition Zoo. But they've got the HP pool to play with. Odysseus trying to force the issue now.
Oh, yes, and Nundesu is not looking too good at all. Obi-Wan Kenobi should be able to finish him off. And just taking a look, Faluso from the Horsemen, he's going to need to do a lot of work right here, but I don't think anyone is quite in his firing range yet. Just been spotted, though, as Joke takes down Gorilla.
Obi-Wan Kenobi just about coming off the reload here. This 113 doesn't have long left to live. And there we go, the E100 picking up the kill now. And this is looking fantastic for the Coalition Zoo. They've still got 6 tanks left in the game. Granted, quite a few of them are quite low on HP, but Horsemen, I feel, don't have the damage to actually close out any of these kills at the moment.
Yep.
The AMX-50B just about to come off the reload here. Might be able to pick up one, but no. Obi-Wan Kenobi coming in from the back, able to pick up an easy kill there. And we're all back down to Spencer once again in that 1390. And wow, surprisingly enough, Coalition Zoo picking up the 2-0 here on Himmelsdorf.
There you go. So, Spencer not going to be able to pull off anything crazy in that 1390, but 2-0 on Himmels. I certainly wasn't expecting that one, John. But, I mean, you just look at the way that the Coalition played that, and again, I think it was just like a lot to do with the tanks they picked. It was really a big part because, like, Horsemen, they're obviously used to going up against these other teams, and like really, when we think about other teams on, in the WGL APAC League, we don't really see too many E100s. We don't see many of them at all, right? And
No.
so when you throw 2 of them in there, 2 or 3 of them in there, like Coalition Zoo have just done, it's really, really hard to kind of brawl against them when you're in a team which I think they had 2 autoloaders that last time. It definitely had one AMX-50B that was driven by Faluso, but I feel as though the autoloaders, which are so popular against some of those just slightly lighter tanks, like the FV215B and the 113s particularly, like I feel they lose some of their effectiveness when you put a giant wall of HP in front of them, because it's another reload that they have to go through before they can take you down effectively. So yeah, I feel as though that's a big reason.
Yeah, look, I mean, just a fantastic performance coming out there from the Coalition Zoo on Himmelsdorf. Both of us predicting the 1-1 here, but, it's not particularly surprising to see them come out with the 2-0 because obviously Himmelsdorf a really good map for Coalition Zoo, but, Himmelsdorf quite a good map for Horsemen, so I am a little bit wary now of how the Horsemen are going to continue playing this because, getting off to a 2-0 or an 0-2 start isn't going to be the greatest of feelings.
No, it is not, and I think here we can see this was like Madhouse as well. The Coalition managed to kind of trade damage very effectively, right? Because we can see them on the side there. Lots of them have taken a lot of damage, and that's kind of one of the nice things about their lineup, and why I think it was maybe a mistake for Horsemen to sit in that sort of defensive position on the 2 flag rather than committing to an all-in, because when they sat in that defensive position, they were set up for trading, right? So what that usually signifies when you're just kind of poking a little corner is that you want to get one shot, poke back behind the corner, and hope that you get more damage dealt. But they were doing that against 3 tanks, which could all take off like 750 HP a shot.
Well, speaking of the damage stats, here we go. Let's see if the T123 paid off.
Yeah, it did actually. So 2.3 thousand damage there. The E100s who stayed in the fight for a nice long time with about 2.5k damage each. The IS-7, 3k as well. So some pretty respectable damage numbers across the board there for the guys on TCZ. And unfortunately for Horsemen, only one member up in the top 7. So a little bit disappointing for them, but I mean, guess it comes with the territory.
Yeah, and I think now the
TCZ.
difficulty here for Horsemen is, if I had to hazard a guess, I would say Himmelsdorf would have been their pick, because now heading on to Prokhorovka, that's a map that Horsemen don't seem particularly comfortable on.
Right. So I feel as though Prokhorovka, it is going to be a little bit trickier for TCZ, because I don't know, I love TCZ's Himmelsdorf playstyle, but Prokhorovka, I'm not convinced.
Okay. We've seen them play it 3 times. They haven't lost it just yet, but Himmelsdorf just having a bit more of a difficulty. It does look like we're almost about to be underway on onto Prokhorovka, rather. So let's have a look and see how the tank lineups are looking. And okay, that's really new.
Okie dokie. So that is definitely not something that we see every day. The Horsemen actually going with 6 STB1s. Would you have guessed?
No, I definitely wouldn't have guessed, to be honest.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, the Coalition going with a little bit more of a standard lineup, I guess. You know, there's not too much to be said about the Coalition's lineup. They've got that TVP in there, which, you know, is in my opinion, nor here nor there. But yeah, TCC, what are they doing with it? I'm not, yeah. Sure, of course, for those that don't know, the STB one, that tier 10 Japanese. So, yeah, I feel as though maybe they're setting a new trend. I don't know. Like, I'm a little bit confused as to why they picked all of those because, you know, one or two STBs, like, yeah, sure, you know, it'll kind of play similarly to the Object 140 that we see, that Soviet medium tank, but...
I mean, it's got good gun depression, which is going to be useful on Prokhorovka, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess so.
You could make that argument, but really, it's not the kind of tank you would expect to see 6 of.
No, definitely not. So, I mean, it is the Horsemen, though. So let's not forget, right? We are looking at the Horsemen, and I think we've seen lots of other teams so far, and what they'll probably be doing with those STBs is doing some crazy rush somewhere, honestly. So, yeah, I'm sort of looking forward to that.
We do know Prokhorovka here, of course, relatively defense-sided. It's got about a 68% win rate on the defense side as opposed to about a 31.5 on the attack side. So, you know, it's going to be important here for the guys on Horsemen because this is not really their favored map to actually get a good start off onto their defensive side. For the moment, though, they're on the attack, which I suppose in general is Horsemen's favored sort of side. So we'll have to see how this one works out. Yeah. But I'm favouring a 2-0 here for Coalition Zoo.
Oh, look, the Horsemen here in these STBs, they've got such high DPM. They're just going to be looking to get into the Coalition Zoo's faces and really take it to them effectively. Like, I think the STB has something just about 3,000 damage per minute with that big 105mm gun. But, like, obviously you need to be able to hit the tanks to do that, and it's not the most accurate of tanks with 0.36 meters per 100 meters accuracy.
So good early push coming out from the Coalition Zoo, though, with Roby-1 Kenobi. You can see he's got all the way up onto that hill. He's going to have a heap of information. They know exactly where... Well, they don't know exactly where Horsemen are, but they know for sure that they're not on the eastern side of those train tracks. So now the Coalition Zoo, you can start to see rotating a little bit and getting ready for that push on towards that 1 cap, because it's quite obvious to them right now that the Horsemen are going to be heading in that direction. Roby-1 Kenobi quite safe here, driving around towards the southern areas of the map, and again, just going to be scouting out a little bit more and really painting the picture, I suppose, for the Coalition Zoo as they figure out where the Horsemen are going and what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm liking this scouting here from Roby-1 Kenobi, and he's not really putting himself in too much danger yet. I think the question is whether he'll probably actually go up the train tracks here, just on the kind of wooded side of the train tracks, or maybe even just sit there to make sure a late Horseman flank does not come into the mix. So right now, you are seeing the Horsemen. I don't know, I honestly thought they'd be a little bit more aggressive with these STBs, because when we look at the TCZ side, I mean, TCZ haven't really got anything that could like hard stop a push, but right now the Horsemen going for these long-range trades, and in STBs I'm just not too convinced that it's the best idea, Jordan.
Well, it's certainly not working out for them at the moment. Nundesu has taken a reasonable chunk of his HP, and Horsemen actually haven't been able to do much at all back in the ways to Coalition Zoo. So for the moment, Coalition Zoo looking okay. Odysseus will take a little bit of damage there, and now you can see the cap has been started by the Horsemen. So now they're starting to sort of force the issue. Fuluso in his T-54 lightweight getting that cap timer going down, and the Coalition Zoo now will have to make their move.
It's looking like it. The Coalition don't have any spots on towards that cap. They do have those 3 members up the top near the rail yard, or near the rail line, I should say. But that cap, 90 seconds to go. I feel as though the Horsemen are just waiting to kind of until the Coalition poke 1 tank out, until maybe they'll go for a bit of a kind of double flank. But DHXD and Colin aren't actually set up to push in towards the Coalition's base, if you will, or current setup. So it's looking like the Horsemen are actually just playing this one slow, which is a little bit uncharacteristic of them.
Yeah, this is now starting to get a little bit tough for the Coalition Zoo. They are going to have to move over those tracks. And Joke has actually gotten across pretty safely in that 113, but now he's going to have the difficult job of trying to reset that cap. Only 50 seconds left on the clock here, and the trouble that we see a lot of the time for teams when they're in this position that the Coalition Zoo are in is they take such a long time to reset the cap. And look at this, Joke forced to try and poke in there and push onto the cap. It's not worked out for him. He didn't get the reset, and he took half his HP and damage. So Coalition Zoo really scrambling for ideas at the moment. They do have a slight HP advantage overall, but the pressure is definitely on their shoulders right now.
Yeah, and look at this. Obi-Wan Kenobi, he's actually going to be flanking up from the bottom of the map to try and get some spots off. And I tell you what, these STBs are hitting some very nice shots on that 113. But Odysseus is actually pushing in. He's not going to last long.
Yeah, he's had to commit to this, and, well, he has got the reset. Might be able to get the kill into Fuluso, but no. Nundesu in the STB1 is able to pick up the first kill of the game. The Coalition Zoo really going to have to dig themselves out of this hole right now because they're a tank down. They're a lot of HP down, about 2,000. And really, I think it's going to come down to Obi-Wan Kenobi and Will97 down the south of that map to come back into this fight and really come up with something huge, because at the moment they're having no impact at all, and the rest of their teammates are getting absolutely shredded by the STBs.
Yeah, these STBs are doing work right here, just spewing out damage and shells on towards the Coalition side. But Will coming up from behind them. That's going to give the Horsemen another little something to think about. And actually, Nundesu or Gorilla, they're both pretty low targets, and they've been spotted.
Yeah, imagine if Will here was in a bat chat. That would have been a dead Nundesu, and he probably could have committed straight forward to Gorilla as well. But for the moment, he's going to just continue those reloads. He does pick up the kill. Crazy B picks up one onto Fuluso in the meanwhile, so it's things swinging back a little bit into the favour of Coalition Zoo, but Colin trades one back for Horsemen. We're back to a 5v5 rather, and it's going to come down again to Will. He'll need to get Gorilla here before he goes down. I think he's going to be able to do it on this reload. We'll have to see. Yep, he does manage to get that. Colin should be able to pick him up here, though, in that STB1. So for the moment, we're back to a 4 versus 4. Coalition Zoo, though, look at how low their HP is. They're getting the trades and they're getting the kills that they need, but they're losing so much HP for it. They've only got an STB1 and a TVP to work with now.
TVP's full clip, and he's going to be going in towards DHXD.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, he's walked straight into a crossfire there, and, well, that looks like it's curtains for the Coalition Zoo on that one. Madhouse, the remaining player in that STB1, and I got to say, again, the Coalition Zoo fell into that trap of just taking a little bit too long and forcing themselves into unfavorable situations when they tried to get that reset.
Yeah, no, it just didn't work out for them when they needed to poke over. They didn't really have any tanks that could sort of contest too well in terms of accuracy either. So the Coalition maybe needed something like even like a bat chat. To a couple of bat chats to maybe, get a bit of a flank going.
I would have liked to see a couple of bat chats there for, for both teams, to be honest.
I did like the object, the STBs there for the Horsemen, because I was a little bit confused at first, but seeing how they played that, I really kind of started to like them in the end, because not only are the STBs fairly fast tanks, about 53 or so kilometers an hour top speed, but you could just keep on spewing out shell after shell after shell after shell with them and kind of lock down any chance that anyone has to peek freely. So they're punishing everything.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Horsemen certainly came into that one with a dedicated plan with those STBs, and it did work out quite well for them. You can see here Odysseus, I mean, he did a good job of getting the reset, but again, he had to just basically sacrifice his life for it, and unfortunately for the Coalition Zoo, they lost so much trying to get that reset a couple of times. Remember, the 113 tried to get the reset initially, took half his HP, then you see Odysseus going in there, had to sacrifice his life for the reset there as well, so they just were having so much difficulty getting that reset safely.
Very, very tricky for them indeed. But the Coalition, so when they swap sides, I feel as though, we might see something a little bit different here. That was obviously just a well-executed plan there from the Horsemen. The Coalition, they didn't really have the tanks to answer it properly. There was no real way that they could have, if they pushed all over the cap, then you've got 3,000 damage times 3,000 DPM times 6. Spewing damage at you, and you're not really going to win that from an attacker's position. And the only other thing they could have maybe done is actually set up on that flag instead of setting up on the other side of the rail tracks. But they obviously don't know where Horsemen are going to push. Horsemen could have pushed up the hill and done a similar sort of thing, and it still would have worked. So overall, Just a little bit unlucky for TCZ to run into that.
Yeah, nice for Horsemen to get back on the board here, and they'll probably be moving over to, in theory, the favoured side on Prokhorovka as well. So they've got a really good opportunity to come back here with another 2-0 of their own, bring it back to a 2-2. But let's have a look and see where the damage was coming from there. And, well, unsurprisingly, I suppose, really, it's coming from the STB-1s, Alex.
Yeah, there we go. No surprises there at all. Good to see Pixel in that TVP T50/51 doing a bit of work as well, about 3k damage. But yeah, those
Joke
STBs
didn't have a very fun time at all in that one.
Oh no, yeah, that's. I do not envy Joke as the member who had to kind of poke out and try and get the spots on towards that cap at T54 lightweight. Interesting that they actually chose the T54 lightweight there as well, as opposed to the RU251, but obviously worked out well enough. I think either tank probably would have
I think
done
it's
the
much
job.
of a muchness, really.
Yep.
The STB-1s really were the one to look at there for the Horsemen, but certainly looked pretty good there on the attacking side of Prokhorovka, which surprises me a little bit because they haven't had the best of times on it before today. So good little comeback, I suppose, on that map in particular there for the Horsemen, and now they'll be heading over to their defensive side. So let's have a look and see what they're going to be taking away again. Is it going to be some more STB-1s? And indeed it is.
All right, a lot of STB-1s once again here for the Horsemen, but just taking a look over at the Coalition side, they've actually got the Grill 15 in the mix as well as a Batchat, so a very mixed bag actually from the Coalition this time as well. With the E5 on the attack, which is actually a little bit interesting to see the E5 on the attack, but that to me probably tells me that they're going to be trying for a one flag push up the kind of middle of the map, and probably even we might be seeing something similar to what the Horsemen actually just tried as well, but coming out from the Coalition Zoo. But it'll be interesting to see how the Horsemen actually use those STBs, whether they sit them like in a similar sort of spot to where we saw them push last time on that one flag, or whether they're going to sit them on the bottom of the hill, or that's definitely something up in the air, I think.
Yeah, it is, again, a sort of a lineup that we don't tend to see coming out for the defensive side or even for the attacking side. Either or, really. 6 STBs is definitely something we're not necessarily accustomed to seeing, but I'm more so looking towards what the Coalition Zoo are going to be doing here on their attacking side, because I feel as though that Western cap is probably a little bit more favourable most of the time here. And I think, in the first couple of weeks when we were watching Prokhorovka, most teams were deciding to go towards the Eastern cap. Now it seems the meta has shifted a little bit more to heading towards that Western cap, like what we just saw the Horsemen do. So I'd say we're going to be seeing the Coalition Zoo head towards that direction and try and utilise that part of the map a little bit more so than the 2 cap.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe bet, particularly because they have those bat chats that they're going with as well. And I think it was 1 or 2 bat chats, and you can never go wrong with a bat chat on the hill on Prokhorovka. I think it's a little bit disappointing that we're not seeing any teams picking artillery here. I do like to see a good arty on Prokhorovka, Jordan, but unfortunately, just can't always have my way.
Well, to be honest, I'm not too disappointed. Not a big fan of artillery, really. Sometimes it works, but I mean, again, like we spoke about this, I think last week. We haven't really seen a very impactful artillery play. Maybe yesterday you could argue EL Fox TS in his Lorraine was doing some good work, but again, I mean, is that just because EL is so dominant anyway?
It proves
like
it
is.
It proves that artillery can actually do good work, I think.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there was no question about that, but I think just the risk versus reward ratio, I suppose, of picking up the artillery for me is not quite worth it. I
don't know. I still reckon that it is, and I still do want to see another crazy artillery pickup like that Conqueror gun carriage that we saw earlier on in the piece. And even though it is kind of RNG based, but we're not going to be seeing that here, so it's kind of going to be another mirror matchup, because again, whilst the tank picks that the Coalitions are going with this time are a little bit different, the only really tank that's different in terms of play style is that T110E5, that heavy tank that they're going with, because obviously that T110E5, that would be the tank where if they'd had it last time on the defense, they would have actually been able to poke that turret over, and actually been able to tank a few more hits on towards the turret without sacrificing an entire tank to do it. Whereas the 113, turret's going to bounce a few shells, but after that, frontal armor, see you later. Particularly against those those STB ones that the Horsemen picked. So think, yeah, my bet is going to be still on the Horsemen to take this one out. I like Horsemen on Prokhorovka, don't like TCZ on Prokhorovka. Simple as that.
Fair enough. I mean, it is an interesting sort of a matchup here on Prokhorovka in particular because it's sort of more of a defensive-sided matchup. Horsemen in particular are a very offensive-sided team. They like to be on the attacking side, so obviously picking up their attacking side, now moving over to the defense here. It does still leave a bit of a question in my mind about how they're going to go about this defense because really, you know, despite the map favouring the defensive side, Horsemen in particular haven't been particularly impressive on that defensive side. And something that we sort of identified when we were looking at this match and thinking, well, what do Horsemen have to do to actually win this one, is that Horsemen were going to really need to improve on their current defensive sides because, you know, they've been versing some, I suppose, lesser teams than TCZ at the moment, and their attacking sides have in general been able to carry them through. But here against the Coalition Zoo, you almost feel as though they're going to need both sides of their playstyle to be firing, and we'll see if they're going to be able to do that here.
We will. So right now, we've got the guys rolling out. The Coalition Zoo will be heading out towards the eastern side of the map, and they'll be sticking their one Grill 15, Roby 1 Kenobi, up towards the hill on the east there, which I think is a pretty sensible manoeuvre, and using the rest of the team to kind of spot for him. So I'm already liking that coming out of the Coalition. The Horsemen in the meantime are looking just to kind of get a few spots out. They're not sticking together. A few of them have actually been spotted, or at least Nandesu's been spotted there. So, oh, and the cap's actually already started by the Coalition Zoo. So it's TCZ, they've got their eyes on the 2 cap and they're setting up for it.
Yeah, Coalition Zoo getting themselves in some good positions at the moment. Horsemen have got the information. They know exactly what the Coalition Zoo are doing. Very similar of a situation, I suppose, with the sides flipped at the moment from our previous round. And the Horsemen just want to get this cap timer counting down, trying to put that pressure there on the Horsemen. Horsemen really don't want to be forced into a mistake here. They've got a fair amount of time to work with, but again, we can see how quickly that sort of disappears, and really the team that's trying to defend comes in, makes a mistake, and is absolutely punished for it. But at the moment, Horsemen playing this one very well. They've got the HP advantage. The Grill 15, I don't feel is doing a whole lot of work at the moment up there on that hill. Fuluso coming down in that the T-54 lightweight might be able to catch it off guard if he decides to go up the hill here, and the Coalition Zoo just bleeding slight amounts of damage. But only 15 seconds left on the clock here, and now is when things start to get a little bit dangerous for Horsemen. They need to make a committed push over these tracks. It looks like it's going to be Gorilla to go for this reset here. He hasn't managed to land the shot there. There's only 4 seconds left on this clock here. There is going to be a reset coming out from, I think it might have been Colin in the STB1 next to Gorilla there, but regardless, it doesn't matter who it was.
Odysseus hasn't been spotted yet.
No, he certainly hasn't, and he's the one that's been sitting on the cap from the start. So he's got huge amounts of cap timer going up. Finally, he gets spotted out. Gorilla not quite getting the reset there, but someone else does. Having said that, though, the Coalition Zoo just pumping out damage at the moment onto the Horsemen. And, well, we see a couple of kills go back in the way of the Horsemen, but is it going to be enough here, Alex? Because the Coalition Zoo have got so much HP to work with.
TCZ are just about to win that brawl down the top of the rail yard right there. There we go. That's going to be Colin going down. And look, Archon's on fire. He can't put it out.
Yeah, not too great for him, but he does have a pretty good crew, able to put it out relatively quickly there. In the meanwhile, J-Will did go down. Fuluso, as we sort of predicted almost, is able to take down Roby 1 Kenobi without too much of an issue. And all of a sudden, things swing back in the way of Horsemen here. They don't have as much HP as the Coalition Zoo, but they certainly have more guns in the game, and you can see that starting to pay dividends here. Joke taking huge amounts of damage in the STB1, and the Coalition Zoo having to fall back here and disengage the fight for the moment. And Pixel, he's very far forward on his own. He's going to spot out Fuluso, I suppose, but is he going to be able to have enough damage to take out Fuluso without getting taken out himself?
He should be able to take out Fuluso right here. And oh no, he misses the first shot, but Pixel, look at that. Oh my goodness. That should not have happened, I don't think. Fuluso was only about 3 shots from death, but played that one so well. Dodging the first one, bouncing the second one. And, well, that's honestly just answered my question as to why the Horsemen picked these T-54 lightweights instead of the RU-251. You're not going to see an RU-251's turret ricochet shell from a Batchat, that is for sure. And that's just made it so much harder for the Coalition to come back into this one. I mean, it's still definitely doable because they've got an STB on full HP. It's going to need it's going to take about 3, 4 shells to take him down. But with all these STBs kind of sitting in the brush, in the foliage, making themselves much, much harder to spot.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing the Coalition Zoo here just fall back onto that one cap, try and force the Horsemen to come to them, because really the Coalition Zoo here need to be getting the first shots off. They could definitely still come back into this one because how low those guys from Horsemen are. DHXD is definitely a one-shot coming out here. Nundesu and Archon might be as well. I'm not sure the exact numbers on the STB1, but they're both very low. And Fuluso, you know, if they can manage to take out those STB1s, he's probably not going to pose the greatest of threats.
Yeah, I don't think so. And Joke right here is doing a little bit of kind of searching, making sure, because it's been a while since the Horsemen have been spotted. So, you know, there's no way of the Coalition, for the Coalition Zoo to actually know where the Horsemen are. For all they know, they could actually be running into them, you know, wherever they're walking, wherever they're driving, if you will. But, of course, the STB-1, for those that don't know, does deal about 400 average damage per shell.
Okay, so all those guys are one-shots.
Yeah, in theory. I mean, Nundesu could get RNG'd, but they're really going to have to hope that the dice are on their side this time. So,
having said that, I mean, Joke is also a one-shot here, so
yep.
I feel like if Joke can get a 1-for-1, that'll be a worthwhile trade for the Coalition Zoo.
Yep.
Because Madhouse should be able to get another kill for himself without dying, and then might be able to tank through a few of the shells from that third STB1. But it's really going to come down to how this one plays out here for both these teams. If someone gets spotted out initially and gets picked off, it's almost going to be all said and done.
I'm actually a little bit surprised. Well, I suppose, yeah, it's going to be tricky because the Horsemen, they are able to push with their T-54 lightweight essentially in the front if you were kind of spotting for them. Because the T-54 lightweight will take more than 2 shells to take down. It'll take 3 shells to take down. So that's a full reload of both of those guys' clips. So if the Horsemen send their T-54 lightweight out first and then just kind of trail it with the 3 STBs in the back and do like a kind of like a hunting party style setup, then I mean, as long as they get the spots, which they definitely will once Fuluso starts getting shot, like I just think it's going to be really, really hard for the Coalition Zoo to kind of do a 4-on-2, even though Madhouse is on quite a bit of health.
All right, it's the cap started out here by the Coalition Zoo. I would have liked to have seen them start this off maybe a little bit sooner. I feel maybe Horsemen are just going to be able to get a pretty easy reset here and then run off and hide again and play
exactly. The Coalition, like, I don't think there was any particular reason why they needed to start that so late. Obviously, they were checking around, but here, now all the Horsemen have to do is just poke Fuluso over, get him to reset the cap once. Joke is very far back, so even if the Coalition do spot Fuluso when he's making this this sort of push, or whoever makes the push from the Horsemen, you know, there's no guarantee that Joke will even hit. The STB is not the most accurate tank in the game at all. It's about 0.37 meters accuracy per 100 meters. So, like, you know, you're going to be struggling a little bit to hit some of these tanks.
Yeah, Fuluso is making movements at the moment. The rest of the Horsemen just still playing quite safely behind those tracks, and this is exactly what Horsemen need to do. We've already spoken about Fuluso needs to be the one to move forward. He's relatively safe because he can't get instantly blown up, even if both these guys from Coalition Zoo hit him. So Joke here, he might spot out Fuluso without being spotted himself because he's sitting in that bush, but even if he does, it's not going to help him because he can't take the shot. As soon as he takes the shot, the T-54 is definitely going to spot him, and then the whole jig is up. There you go. The spot comes out onto Fuluso, but that's still not going to be helping Coalition Zoo all that much. Joke, I feel, needs to be a little bit more towards this one cap here. He needs to be able to back up Madhouse when these STBs come in for the reset. But there's only 10 seconds left here on the clock. There should be a pretty easy reset coming out there. Fuluso takes 434 damage. He's going to be still able to survive one more shell. Only 2 seconds left on the clock here, Alex. They're not going to get the reset, are they? What is... Did that just happen? Did that really just happen?
Horseman, please!
Horseman, please is exactly what I would have said.
Oh my goodness, like, there's no reason that had to happen there. The Horsemen just leaving that one way too late before they pushed in, and I mean, TCZ are going to be happy. They got off very lightly for that. Yeah. They could have been punished by leaving it that late, but
jeez,
I don't know. I mean, like, the STB, I'm trying to think. I think it has an okay camo rating. Like,
Well, they were spotted on the cap for about 5 seconds, I think.
at
They were
the end, at the
definitely
very
spotted
end.
at the
Yeah.
end. There was definitely opportunity for Horsemen to just get a wriggle on a little bit. You know, they had plenty
Yeah,
of time to play with.
I don't get it.
And they let it run down so far. Like, what's the point of letting it run down that far?
Not much. There's not obviously, talking amongst themselves, but put it this way, I don't think they're going to be letting it run down that far. If we saw a rematch of that one right now,
Yeah.
So there you go. It's just one of those times when the team has won because just one team left it just a little bit too late. Simple as that. The Horsemen could have, at that point, quite easily, in my opinion, taken it out because all they had to do was get one reset.
Yeah.
Right? Get one reset and then just duck back. And still have 4 tanks alive. Like, it wasn't hard for the Horsemen to just do that and play defensively and play for time because they're on the defense, of course. So, anytime you're on the defensive side, on attack and defense, if the timer gets down to 0 seconds and the enemy team hasn't capped out or destroyed all of your tanks, then you win.
Yep.
So, it's pretty simple. 10 minutes, obviously not simple enough.
I mean, I really don't know what to say there for Horsemen. They should have been able to get a victory there, really. And they've just gifted another one over to TCZ. It's now 3-1 in the favour of Coalition Zoo, when really you would have thought it probably should be a 2-2 there.
Yep.
But, I mean, just a little bit disappointed, I guess.
Yeah, I can tell you're a little bit disappointed there, just shaking your head to the Horsemen.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's World of Tanks for you sometimes. Sometimes we do see these teams just maybe get a little bit too caught up in, the strategies or how they're going to push in for time, etc., etc. But it's not really able to do what counts.
Yeah, Pixel really choked on this particular part here as
Yeah,
well.
look at
He
that.
missed the first shot, bounced the second one. I mean, fair enough, I suppose, on the bounce. It wasn't an easy shot. But really, you'd have to say he should have probably penetrated both of them.
Oh, no. And look at that. So he actually wasn't spotted. Madhouse was not spotted until right on the end.
But again, I don't understand, sure, that's fine, right? And I guess that's the reason they didn't get the reset. But why was he not spotted?
Why leave it too
Why
late?
wasn't he spotted?
Exactly. There's still no excuse for leaving it till that late to actually push in. It wasn't tracked. They had 4 tanks up. They just need to reset 1 on the cap.
Yeah, and the main thing for me was that T-54 lightweight was 3 shots from death. So he was
exactly.
I'm going to say he was invulnerable, but obviously he wasn't. But you get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
He could take 2 shots for free, and only then did he have to worry about going down, unless maybe he got set on fire or something. But that's leaving a little bit to chance, I suppose. But let's have a look and see who the heroes were for that battle. Joke in the STB 1 there for Coalition Zoo did quite a lot of work.
Yeah, he did. And honestly, even though that grill went down fairly early on, it did a fair amount of damage, 2.3k. You can't really complain if you're Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, but Faluso, honestly, he was almost a hero. Almost a hero. I say almost because he kind of messed up the little end bit of play there with that T-54 lightweight. But Faluso, honestly, did some really good work in that T-54 lightweight. So, definitely a tank to look out for. And he's kind of swayed me back to the school of T-54 lightweights after seeing that one, because I'm a big RU guy. But after seeing that,
Yeah, well, across the board, an okay performance, I suppose, on Prokhorovka there from Horsemen, but still resulting in a 3-1 advantage at the moment for Coalition Zoo. We're going to be heading into the third map, actually, very shortly, and it's going to be Ghost Town. So for me, I think this is actually quite a good map for Horsemen and sort of an average one for Coalition Zoo, but once again, we're going to be seeing those E100s coming out here for Coalition Zoo.
Yeah, so no surprises there that they are going to be going with their C100s in this close quarters kind of brawly map. And Horsemen, I like the IS-7 pick. They've got the FE215Bs and the AMX-50B as well. So again, pretty kind of stock standard picks. But like, to me, this is already, I don't know, reminding me back to Himmelsdorf, right? Where the Coalition, they had, again, those E100s, and Horsemen tried to brawl it out with them, tried to trade it out with them, and it just didn't work. So, I mean, Ghost Town is much more of a sort of like varied map in terms of how you can push and how you can start the brawls, and it is a little bit more open than Himmelsdorf.
Yeah.
So in that respect, there are lots more avenues to kind of worry about rather than Himmelsdorf, which is just like, okay, get into the flag and shoot each other.
Yeah.
But still, if the Coalition Zoo get into an all-out brawl with the Horsemen, then I just feel like their tank lineup is looking better. So I'm going to pick TCZ 2-0.
Okay. Bit of a bold prediction if you ask me. TCZ have got a 50% win rate on Ghost Town. A little bit better on the attack than the defense. Horsemen, on the other hand, though, 75% win rate on Ghost Town, and also a little bit better on the attack than defense. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see a 1-1 coming out here. I certainly hope for the Horsemen they're going to be able to 2-0 it, because it is a map which probably should go in their favour.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Horsemen, they obviously not too bad on it. But Coalition Zoo, if they can play this one alright, I feel as though they're learning quite quickly, the Coalition Zoo, even though they are the second top on the scoreboard. But they did make some fairly kind of evident mistakes on their last loss on Ghost Town. Namely, I think it was to do with like pushing in the wrong spots, I think, and just general positioning. But right here we see them get the first shot off on towards Collins' IS-7. I do like what Collins doing there, though. From the Horseman side, obviously that kind of tank with the most armor, hardest to penetrate, is just going to be sitting there on towards that one flag.
It's not a bad position from Madhouse. I actually haven't seen that before this season, so I don't mind it. I mean, he's not going to be able to get resets onto this base, but gets a lot of vision from there. Oh, well, I say he's not going to get resets, but that was very close.
Was very close. Oh!
Didn't get the reset. Bounced off. Oh! What a shot! That was an excellent shot from Colin.
Oh, my goodness. There's the reset.
So I was wrong, but that's unsurprising, isn't it?
I wonder if Colin's going to hit another one. Oh, no, not
Madhouse would be thinking, what's going on here? You'd have to be so unlucky to get hit by that.
You really would. There's a fair amount of RNG in those sorts of shots as well. So, but effectively, what that means is that, like, the Coalition Zoo aren't under any real cap pressure until until two tanks get on the cap, and I think we've just seen the AMX 1390 get on the cap as well. So they are going to need to make a bit of a push in now, and it's going to come from the E100s.
Yeah, the first shot bouncing off J Will there, so the FV215B not able to penetrate. J Will, on the other hand, will definitely penetrate. The other E100 able to get another penetrating shot onto Gorilla, and all of a sudden, Gorilla getting very low. Archon's taking a little bit of damage as well. Horsemen not looking too great in this one here on their attacking side.
Can't trade against C100s, Horseman. You should know this from Himmelsdorf. It's not looking great. 38 seconds left on the cap as well. And we can also see that the Coalition Zoo are pushing some tanks over to deal with that cap. Roby-1 Kenobi in that bat chat is coming around from behind or from the side of the Horsemen as well. So that should be a good little spot when they want to. But right now the Coalition Zoo, they don't even need to push on towards the rest of the Horsemen and force a fight, which might be a little bit risky against those FVs, because they can just sit around and go for trades and just make sure that they're getting the base resets.
Yeah, I mean, this is looking really good for the Coalition Zoo. They've got a huge HP advantage. They've got such good position. They control almost 3/4 of the map, and they can pretty much do what they want at the moment. These E100s just proving to be so powerful in the hands of the Coalition Zoo players that really at the moment Horsemen just don't have an answer.
Yeah, no, they don't. And right now, actually, they're being a little bit aggressive with these E100s. Because
Archon, a great opportunity to do heaps of damage here. He's got a full clip as that E100 comes around the corner. And look at all this going to be just pumping straight into J Will. Not sure if it's going to matter, though, because, well, he's got a massive HP pool to play with. Joke is so low on the HP there. Gorilla will be able to take him down. No, it's actually Nundesu who picks up the kill. There is a trade out. J Will picks up Hawks. But really, I think this is going to be going the way of Coalition Zoo for the moment. They've just got so many tanks right in the fight there.
Yeah, Coalition Zoo, an excellent fight, even though they peaked out kind of a little bit early. I think the first E100 missed that shot, and they couldn't quite get the gun depression to shoot down early on. But there we go. They've just taken it out. Only 3 members on the Horsemen left, and the Coalition Zoo, well, their tanks are battered and bruised. We've got some drivers knocked out there as well, which they're just dealing with. But with only 2 AMX 50Bs left and an IS-7, against all of those tanks on TCZ, it's going to be very, very hard for the Horsemen.
Yeah, but 2 AMX-50Bs, that's a lot of damage that can be put out. Unfortunately, Archon reloading at the incorrect time. He might have been able to get a bit of damage across to Jay Will for the moment. He's got himself in an okay side-scraping sort of angle, but E100, not too bothered by that one at all. Archon going to go down. Would have been nice to see him with those 2 remaining shots. Might have been able to put some more pressure onto Jay Will there. And Fuluso in the other AMX-50B goes down as well, and that's pretty much the nail in the coffin there for the Horsemen. The Coalition Zoo going to be going up 4-1 here after the first half of Ghost Town, and they're just looking so much more comfortable than the Horsemen at the moment on all the maps.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, when we see that those tank picks coming into Ghost Town, right? Those E100s, it's like Horsemen have got to find a way to play against them. But what we saw there is, like, Horsemen were doing their standard strategy still. Like, they were just holding the corners with the FE215Bs, and against another FE215B, against a 113, against an IS4, against an AMX-50B, against any autoloader, a T57 heavy, that would have worked. But they weren't against those tanks; they were against E100. So I think one of the first kind of shots or multiple shots fired were from those 2 E100s onto the FE215B of the Horsemen down the hill. It's like he got the first shot off. Well done, 400 damage.
Yeah.
But by the time he peeked behind the corner, he'd taken 1,500 in return. So and like in 10 seconds, in 12 seconds or so, like they were just ready to shoot again. So
yeah. Well, this was a good shot from Colin. I mean, that's probably the best thing that happened for Horsemen in the entire round.
Yeah, pretty much. Like getting a solid shot on towards Madhouse with that IS-7's.
I mean, he wouldn't have known he actually hit it, I'd imagine. So, yeah.
IS-7's big 130mm gun. And yeah, here, this is where, like, potentially the Horsemen could have made something work right there. But the issue is, like, Archon. He was about 10 or so seconds just hiding behind that wall. He finally peeked out and emptied his clip. But again, just a few seconds. So there wasn't great focus fire there by the Horsemen. As we can see, Joke finally went down, but he should have been the first one to go down. Crazy was low. J-Will was low. So priming their targets might have been a little bit of a better idea for the guys on Horsemen. But there you go.
Well, Horsemen have got one more chance coming into this one, moving over to their defensive side. First, let's have a look, though, at the stats coming out from that one. The E100s probably did a bit of work, I'd imagine, but actually, Colin in the IS-7 coming up big for the Horsemen. Wasn't enough, though.
No, not quite big enough, but yeah, Colin was pretty fierce in that IS-7. We had Pixel there, yeah, with the FE215Bs dealing a bit of damage. Those AMXs, I mean, making an impact, not as much of an impact as you'd like.
Yeah.
But even the E100 there was an E100 kind of down the bottom there, but it doesn't even really matter because they took so much damage as well.
Yeah.
That, like, it's hard to kind of deal with it in that. And we don't see the stats here, which is shots ricocheted. Yeah. And I'm sure that both of those E100s would have one or two, maybe even
Gorilla
more
definitely
shots
bounced a shot off one of the E100s. So,
yep.
I mean, take of that what you will. It's just one. But it's an example, I suppose, of the situation that the guys on Horsemen are finding themselves in. But now they're going to be moving over to their defensive side. It's not their favoured side in general. It's not their favoured side on Ghost Town. Coalition Zoo moving over to the attacking side on Ghost Town. It's their favoured side. This is not looking good for Horsemen.
It is not looking good for Horsemen at all. We'll have to see what they pick. I think that might play into it a little bit, and whether we see the E100s again on the Coalition side. The answer is yes. We will be seeing the E100s again. Okay.
ST1s, hey?
Right, ST1s. That's interesting there. Going with the ST1s for the Coalition. We've got AMX 50Bs on the Horseman side, FV215Bs. So the Horsemen, again, going with a fairly similar looking lineup. But, yeah, interested to see how those ST1s play out. I like the Object 416, though. Actually, if I could just, draw attention to that Object 416 on the Horseman's lineup there. Obviously, that Tier 8 Soviet medium tank, and it does a lot of work. I'm a big fan of it because it's got a really good gun that is sort of one of the highest penetration guns of its tier for a medium tank.
Right.
So really, you can go through anything with it, and it's still fast. It's still, can get around the place. So yeah, it's a nice one.
Well, it's going to have to come up pretty strong here for the Horsemen because this is their last chance to stay in this one. You predicted Horsemen to pick up the victory here. I predicted the Coalition Zoo, but we both predicted a very close scoreline.
Yeah.
And at the moment,
overall,
it's almost looking like a 5-1 here in the favour of Coalition Zoo. So, well, I'm a little bit worried for my prediction. I'll be
I
honest.
think I'm a little bit worried about my prediction as well, Jordan. Yeah, lucky I didn't pick any of these guys in my fantasy league team from the Horsemen. Just kind of, I'm like a fair weather friend here.
Right.
Not locking them in, but of course, for those that don't know, you can set up your own fantasy league page at fantasy.eslgaming.com/WOT and pick your favourites. All the best from these teams, Build a team of champions
or a champion
to battle
team.
it out. Or a champion team.
Who knows?
Who knows? But Horsemen certainly aren't looking like a champion team at the moment because TCZ are kind of steadily dismantling them, to be honest. It was not expected to be this far apart, I think, moving into it. And, we have got, a chance for the Horsemen to come back into this. But even to go 4-1 so early on, and even in that last map, it didn't really look like the Horsemen were close. And it wasn't like the coalitions who tried anything crazy.
Yeah.
They just pushed into the town with their tanks, effectively, and they did have that nice RU-251 set up to reset the cap at A0. But, apart from that, it was fairly, could have guessed it, that they were going to push into the town with the E100s and look for a brawl.
Yeah.
But they did that. They walked right in to the Horsemen, so the Horsemen were set up waiting for them. I don't even think the Batchat flank really had a massive impact. They just beat them out in the brawl.
Yeah, I mean, Coalition Zoo basically just playing their own game, and it's working out very well for them. At the moment, Horsemen, it almost feels as though they're not really playing their usual style. We tend to see them playing very aggressively, and at the moment, they're not, in my eyes, really getting in there and forcing the fights how they usually would. They're just sort of playing relatively passively, trying to go for some trades and that sort of thing, but, definitely not their usual style.
Definitely not, I think. So, we'll see how it goes for them now that they're kind of under a lot more pressure to actually win this one to stay in the series 4-1. So, I feel as though if the Horsemen can, pull back here, then maybe on the next map, whatever it is, then they might be able to, shift the momentum a little bit against the Coalition. So, I feel like all of these maps, apart from Prokhorovka, have really been in favour of the Coalition. So they love, these Himmels, these ghost towns, these nice, close, brawly maps, in my opinion. It suits their playstyle, it suits their tank picks really well. But, I don't know whether Horsemen will even be able to stick in for another one and draw it out to a 4-2 or not.
Well, I mean, when I just look at this round in particular, I'm very worried about the Horsemen. I just don't think that they have it here, even though these teams were...
Actually, you know why? You know why they don't have it?
What?
Well, it's because the Coalition, they run a zoo. And what goes in a zoo? It's
Horses.
Animals. So horses.
But not men.
So, they're the horsemen.
All right.
So they it's like by nature, the Coalition zoo is always going to be able to control and tame the horsemen. You say so. You see where I'm going?
Yeah, I do see where you're going.
I see where I'm going.
Yeah, of course you do.
I hope everyone in Twitch chat sees where I'm going.
Well, yeah.
But
I'm going to have a look at the VOD and see what everyone thinks of that.
Yeah, well, I probably won't. Not a masochist, so there we go. But right now we're seeing where everyone is rolling out to on both sides. Let's get this game underway.
Let us indeed. It's going to be a tough one here for the Horsemen coming out on their defensive side. They don't like defending very much compared to their attacking side. Coalition Zoo definitely like being on the attack here on Ghost Town as well. So this is going to be a bit of a toughie for the Horsemen. But they seem to be reading the play okay. They're both, the Horsemen are heading into the 2-cap, which is where the Coalition Zoo at the moment are making their way towards. So maybe this will work out for the Horsemen.
Maybe, I'm not too sure. But right now it's looking like, the first shot actually did go over to the Horsemen. Always a good sign for them, I feel. But, a few few shots, a little missed there, but interesting that we're seeing a bit of a two-flag push coming out here from the Coalition Zoo. I feel as though they did this last time. It didn't really work out too well. I would prefer to see a one-flag push. In this, you know, I don't really feel as though in this current meta game, the two-flag push works too well because obviously it's so easy for the Horsemen to set up and defend it. There's lots of good spots on Ghost Town where they can defend it from, like we're seeing right here. But in saying that, they may not be expecting this to actually come in from a bit of a push from the top, but Feluso is going to be coming in behind them.
Yeah, Feluso though only in the Object 416, so probably not the scariest of tanks, I suppose. Maybe having an AMX-50B coming from behind is a little bit scarier, but certainly Feluso should be able to do a bit of damage with the Object 416 regardless. At the moment though, Coalition Zoo really trying to push into the Horsemen, and at the moment it's not working. They've got a 3,000 HP deficit, and remember, they started off with some E100s, so they had a huge HP advantage to start off. They are getting absolutely destroyed here. Finally, they've managed to surround the Horsemen, but is it going to be enough? They're already at such a disadvantage to the HP that the Horsemen should be able to close this one back out. Coalition Zoo in good positions right now, but you know, they're going to have to do so much work to climb out of this hole that they found themselves in. THXT able to find another kill. Finally, the first kill of the game for the Horsemen, for the Coalition Zoo rather, is going to come onto the Horsemen, but really, Horsemen just completely wiping the floor here with the Coalition Zoo. Very unexpected, in all honesty, Alex.
Absolutely, and the Horsemen just dismantling them right there. Easy as you please. So, well, those AMX-50Bs definitely coming in favour that time, and working out really well against those ST1s, the Tier 9 heavy.
What do you think went wrong there for the Coalition Zoo? Because they just seemed to walk straight into the trap of the Horsemen.
Exactly. You just said it. They walked straight into the trap. Yep. Like, the Horsemen were set up perfectly. They had all of the angles down there. They had the Object 416, which came down from the top and you know, started dismantling them. The two AMX-50Bs and the FE-215Bs. Like, when they were all there and when they're all able to fire, that is just so much damage that it doesn't matter if you're in two E100s. You can just get completely dismantled. And what the guys from Coalition Zoo needed to do instead is they had the E100s again. They needed just to trade a little bit first and just go for those trades, just to poke around, see where everyone was, not commit to the fight yet.
Exactly.
Not give Horsemen what they wanted and just walk right into, you know, 5 tanks firing on from all sides. And just try and win from trades. And honestly, I would have preferred a one-flag push from the Coalition Zoo. I'm never a big fan of two-flag pushes on Ghost Town. It'd be interesting to see the global statistic for how often two-flag pushes have worked in the, you know, the other regional Wargaming.net League regions, because I don't think the two-flag push will have a very high win rate there either.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly seemed like Coalition Zoo, they're just committed to that fight without really much information at all. You mentioned probably would have been a better idea just to be trading with those E100s rather than getting into a big brawl like that. But yeah, they certainly just walked in there without much information at all. And as a result, you can see, I mean, you will see what happened, really.
Yeah, look at this. The Coalition Zoo, Obi-Wan Kenobi is right at the front, and they just weren't in a good position to deal with this. They didn't focus their targets too well either. That was a pretty big part of it. Like, they're just effectively right now, they're just shooting whoever they want to, and that ram almost killed Hawks, but not quite. And this was
the AMX-50B is really even in that fight. You see Archon picks up a kill there, but I think they might have just gotten into that fight really late. The FE-215Bs, for me, were the ones that were doing the most damage. I guess we'll have to wait and see.
were absolutely ripping it up in that fight, for sure. Of course, the FE-215B, very high DPM on that British Tier 10 heavy tank. And that's the other thing. They picked the ST1s, Coalition Zoo. They picked those two Tier 9 Soviet heavy tanks. But I'm not too sure why, in all honesty. Like, when you pick a Tier 9, you want to pick a Tier 9 that's like a damage threat, right? That can, you know, sort of work out well when you get into those brawly situations and be a big enough threat to warrant being picked. But really, the ST1s, I mean, they only have about 2,000 or so damage per minute. Like, the gun's not the best. It's like, why pick it?
Well, there you go. The 3 FE-215Bs for Horsemen doing a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, look at that. That's what happens when you have a long, drawn-out brawl with FE-215Bs and you don't primary them. The E100, their Madhouse, at least, he got 3 shots off and they all hit, but apart from that, it was not pretty. Joke in the E100 dealing 0 damage. 0 damage.
It was a bit of an odd fight. It kind of looked like Coalition Zoo actually had the numbers there,
Yeah.
even though they somehow managed to lose it. So maybe the AMX 50Bs were sort of off screen a little bit, down an angle that they were able to shoot down, but I just couldn't see it. But yeah, it just looked really strange.
Oh well, there you go. So 2-4 to the Coalition Zoo at the moment, but that's going to be a nice shift in momentum.
Yep.
I feel for the Horsemen after that one. And well, they might be able to actually draw it out to my prediction, which was 5-4.
They might.
The end.
Who knows? I mean, it's not lost just yet.
It's certainly not lost just yet, and with the way that Horsemen played just then, and because we've already seen two of the Coalition Zoo's strongest maps, I think, Jordan,
exactly.
we could really be in for a nice close one. I'm hoping it goes to a 5.
Which brings me on to my next point here, because the next map is going to be Ruinberg. And
Right.
for the Coalition Zoo, they play it quite a lot. They've played it 10 times, actually. 5 on attack, 5 on defense. Only a 50% win rate, though. So, it's not the best of maps for them. Horsemen, also a 50% win rate. Haven't played it quite as much, though. So, they're a bit of an outlier here. But Coalition Zoo definitely not as comfortable here on Ruinberg as, say, something like a Himmelsdorf.
Right, so here we are. We've got the Coalition Zoo picking a bit of a mixed bag of tanks, kind of a bit of brawl in there. They've got the Grill 15, they've got the AMX 50B, so some high damages. Object 430, the IS-7, so really it's kind of hard to read the Coalition Zoo's lineup. I mean, it could be a defense lineup, I guess. But the Horsemen, going a little bit more standard. Got the IS-7, nice kind of front man for the team. FE215Bs and the Bat Chats. Everyone likes Bat Chats, and I don't think we've seen enough Bat Chats this series.
We haven't seen too many Bat Chats really in general throughout this series, because, Bat Chat typically is the most picked tank in the league.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
At the moment, it's really falling by the wayside. But I guess that kind of comes down to how the Coalition Zoo like to form their teams. They're a much more heavy tank sort of oriented team, and also the maps that we've seen coming out throughout today, Himmelsdorf and Ghost Town. We occasionally will see Bat Chats, but they're not necessarily the maps that typically lend themselves to having a big stack of Bat Chats, like something like, say, Steps. Surprising not to see it so much on Prokhorovka, but again, there was the STB1, so there was a definite strategy coming out from Horsemen there. So there are reasons, but it's still, across the board, a little bit surprising not to see Bat Chats,
Yeah, oh well. I guess we'll see how well the Bat Chats work out for the Horsemen here on Ruinberg. As we can see, Ruinberg with those two flags, one nicely tucked in towards the city and one all the way out at the town. Okie dokie. Let's see where these guys head out to. Jordan. Like right now, the Horsemen heading south. Maybe a two-flag push is on the cards for them. They do have those Bat Chats. They could move the Bat Chats down to that 0 line nice and early on. I think that's probably what they're going to be doing with both Nun, Desu and Hawks. They've got Spencer, who's already been spotted in that AMX 1390. Might even be making his way on towards the cap early.
Wouldn't be the worst of strategies here for Horsemen. I mean, they've got the IS-7, so I wouldn't be surprised seeing that get in that sort of hull-down position near like the FG sort of 6 line, 6-7 line. That little building that we tend to see the IS-7s in quite a lot. It seems that he's heading that way as well. So, this is not a bad push, I feel, there from the Horsemen. They've actually managed to get quite far down towards that 0 line. They've been spotted out now. They need to make sure that they can get rid of that guy that's spotting them without taking too much damage. At the moment, they're hiding behind the ridge and just playing a little bit more safe rather than aggressive. But Collins got in his position in the IS-7. And now we're just going to wait and see what Horsemen do. I dare say eventually they're going to try and make their way onto this 2-cap.
It's looking like it there. But right now, we do see Colin getting into a nice little defensive position around that... Oh, no, he's actually... he's trying to. Lucky he hasn't been spotted yet. I think he just fell down as he was trying to get himself in towards that little kind of hidey hole there. But right now, Roby1 Kenobi reloading that AMX 1390. I'm kind of liking the Coalition Zoo's positioning here. Like, our kind of mantra is that when you're pushing on... Oh, no, Jay will. Oh, he's in trouble.
Yeah, Nundesu hasn't even been spotted out yet. He's doing so much work with that Bat Chat. finally has to fall back there, but Jay Will, he's got no idea where Nundesu is at the moment, and as a result, no one from the Coalition Zoo could really back up Jay Will. You did see a blind shot coming out from one of the FV215Bs up in the town, but you could see that Nundesu had already fallen back. He would have probably been hit by it, but he gets away safely. Hawk's taking a blind shot, though.
Oh, yeah, Hawks isn't going to be too happy about that in the bat chat. Only on 780 HP right now. So I'm a little bit surprised that the Horsemen haven't actually pushed up to try and clean out Jay Will and essentially pulled the trigger on this, because it's a little bit unlike them so far. Instead, they're just letting Pixel in that IS-7 get some good shots down on towards them. And, oh, I think we might be seeing the push. No? From those three? No, maybe not. So, a little bit of a kind of standoff here. Meeting at high noon. Both of these tanks, Spencer and the Object 430 of Jay Will. But he's doing a really good job, Jay Will, of, well, one, staying alive, and two, getting the odd spot on towards the Coalition. But right now, the Horsemen, interesting to see that they actually have all of their heavies around right near Colin on that 2 flag. So it's looking like there isn't much of an option for them to retreat right now and go back towards the 1 flag, because I'm pretty sure they actually get spotted out by some members of the Coalition Zoo.
I like what the Horsemen did there, though, in not pushing aggressively into that KO line, because a lot of the time what we see the teams on the attacking side do when they spot that KO player, they just charge straight over the tracks there, take them down as fast as they can, but most of the times, yes, they'll get the kill. However, they'll lose so much HP in doing it that it really isn't worth it. Nundesu getting completely punished for that there again. And they're having so much trouble getting Jay Will out of this K0 position. It was looking okay for them, but after that little passage of play, I'd have to say Coalition Zoo really starting to slowly but surely eat away at the HP here of Horsemen and get that advantage. Might not be the worst idea for here for Horsemen to maybe give up on this 2 cap and make their way over to the 1 cap. Just try something different, because this strategy at the moment is not working.
It is not really working at all, because if Jay Will pokes over one more time and managed to get a spot out onto Hawks, then, oh, a bit of an AMX 1390 duel in the meantime in the town.
Yeah, Spencer not in a great position in this one. He's already lost the HP early on. He's got an extra shot in the clip there, but you can see Roby-Wan Kenobi definitely keen to try and chase him down. They're actually going to be disengaging the fight there, but meanwhile across the map you can see Horsemen again just losing a bit more HP, and now Coalition Zoo sitting very happily with a 3k HP advantage.
Yeah, there we go. So Coalition are going to be pretty happy about that. And we do see Nundesu here in the bad chat just retreating all the way back. And, you know, when you've lost the bad chat, that's just going to make it so much harder to push in towards that town where TCZ are hiding. And I feel as though they might be able to, Horsemen might be able to just retreat, potentially. Colin isn't in that that kind of hidey hole where he's committed to the 1 flag, to the 2 flag push. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we could see a bit of an actual city push from, oh no, from the Horsemen. A town push even.
Only just over 4 minutes remaining here for the Horsemen, and I mean they've used up a lot of time trying to get an advantage in this one, and really all they've achieved is actually putting themselves at a disadvantage. Hawks has already gone down here, and Horsemen sitting much lower on HP than Coalition Zoo are, so Horsemen, for all the trouble that they've gone to, haven't really achieved a whole lot, and they're going to have to pull the trigger relatively shortly.
They will, and right now we are going to be seeing something happening for the Horsemen. They've sent Nundesu up to the city. So what I'm thinking they might actually be doing is, and I'm liking this, they could try a bit of a split. So they could try to split on towards that 1 flag with a few of their tanks, try and take out the AMX 1390 that's up there, and then after that, the grill. Get some tanks on there to start applying some cap pressure, and then push on towards the 2 flag and distract the Coalition Zoo while they're getting the cap on the 1 flag. Because the TCZ are all around that 2 flag, and it is going to be still a little bit hard for them to deal with 2 pushes at once.
Yeah, I mean, Horsemen here are going to have to come up with something different, I suppose. They're going to have to go for a split or something like that, just so that they can get onto one of these caps without taking a huge amount of damage. So we'll see Spencer and Nundesu making their way towards that one cap. They have been spotted out, though, and great shot there coming out from Odysseus in the Grill 15. He's going to take down Spencer. DHXD does get a trade out there.
Grill ricocheted something. You don't see that every day.
No, certainly not. But again, the go signal hasn't come out yet for the Horsemen, and there's only 2.5 minutes left. They've played this timer down so much they don't have much time left to play with. These heavy tanks over towards the 2 cap for Horsemen need to do something very soon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Horsemen are just going to time themselves out of this battle.
Yeah, they need to go. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter that all of the Coalition's tier 10s are up. Like, the Horsemen only have 2 minutes and 10 seconds left, and that goes down so fast. You know, particularly when you're in these slower heavy tanks like the IS-7s and the FE215Bs. But looks like we are going to be seeing some movement finally, and I think it's got to be the 2 cap right there. We're hearing the sirens, and you know, with the 1 flag defended out there by Odysseus, you know, he can take out Nundesu in one shot with that Grill 15. So there's no option. Horsemen have to go.
Yeah, I think they've left it way too late here, Alex. I mean, they're going to get onto this 2 cap, but a minute 40 left. The cap pressure is really not going to be there unless they put 3 guys on the cap. But even then, the Coalition Zoo have got plenty of easy resets. Horsemen take so much damage in getting onto that cap. Archon losing about half of his HP. And they really haven't done much back into the Coalition Zoo. This is looking fantastic here for TCZ to be able to close this out 5-2, because Horsemen, for me, have just left this way too late.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, TCZ are looking to close it out. We do have Nundesu up the top, so you might be able to get a flank onto Odysseus. But nope, as I say that, Nundesu is one shot by Odysseus from about 600 HP. So that Grill doing a good amount of work. And with less than a minute to go, there is no way that only 2 members of the Horsemen are going to be able to take out 6 members of TCZ right now. And it's just a little bit disappointing for the Horsemen. They came into this one. I like some of their picks, and I mean, they just weren't able to really use them at all. They just kind of capitulated very early
that,
on.
isn't it? 5-2 in the favour of TCZ there. Again, we see the Horsemen playing the timer down way too long. It really punished them on Prokhorovka. Once again, punishing them here on Rurenberg. So for me, 2 of those rounds out of those 6 that we saw was Prokhorovka just playing themselves out of the game.
Yep, I think so. So overall, I mean, the Horsemen got to be a little bit disappointed with that performance. Obviously, yes, the Coalition Zoo came into this one as the second, technically the preferred favourites, but really, I feel as though the Horsemen could have at least made that one into a 5-4 and got a point out of it in a tiebreaker. But there you go. I mean, Rurenberg, like we just saw, that was it was a slow match.
Yeah.
And it's not something we're used to seeing from the Horsemen.
No, definitely not something that we're used to seeing there from the Horsemen. But, we'll see how they went about it. And this was a really nice shot coming out from Odysseus, because you can see, I think he just one-shots Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm pretty sure no one else gets a shot onto him. And
yeah, there we go. See you later, Spencer. It was a nice...
Spencer, rather, not Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Solid shot there from that Grill 15. And I do like having the Grill in the defensive side there.
It certainly worked out there.
Oh, it worked out really well.
Zoo. So we'll have a look at the post-battle stats and see how much damage it did. But I'm sure it was, doing some decent work. Having said that, though, Coalition Zoo, the FE215Bs once again, really up there.
Yeah, I mean, they were always going to be up there when we saw them just getting shot after shot in the town when Horsemen did their ill-fated push near the end of it. And, the IS-7 did a little bit of work there, Pixel as well, which is good to see. The Grill coming in 8th. But, you can see a bat chat at Hawks in the bat chat dealing 0 damage, just getting played near that 0 line, and that's always unfortunate. I felt as though maybe if the Horsemen had pushed with their bat chats and their AMX 1390 up towards the 1 flag early on, and just eliminated the Grill up there that was defending it, and the AMX 1390 had kind of 3v2'd them, then they would have had a lot more freedom to move about the map, to kind of decide what they were going to do without worrying about a Grill, dealing 750 damage from halfway across the map. Essentially, just try to whittle down the Horsemen before they tried to do TCZ before I don't even know what they tried to do at the end. Like that was just like, okay, let's press W, guys, into the town.
Yeah, well, regardless, it wasn't a great day today for the Horsemen. They go down 2 rounds to 5 up against the Coalition Zoo, who are going to put themselves up towards that second spot in the standings at the moment. But that's going to be it from our first round here, of course. We do have plenty of rounds coming up, though, in today's matchups. We've got 3 more, Alex. It's going to be a great day, so don't go anywhere. But for the moment, we'll head to a quick break and see you in a bit.